The BumbleKast is for entertainment purposes only. The host's comments and opinions, and those of their guests, are wholly their own and do not represent that of any other entity. Content is provided as is, with no guarantees of accuracy or timeliness. Unauthorized redistribution or editing of the BumbleKast in whole or in part is strictly prohibited.
Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always on this special edition is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Whip, I'm here. It's time.
Teleporting in just like the megas of man.
Something like that, I guess.
And joining us again, please welcome KaiZenAmen.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to be back. It's always a pleasure to chat with you fine gentlemen. BumbleKast is always a great thing to throw on for a good time.
Is this
I appreciate that.
Is this what we're doing now? We're talking like this?
Okay, I wasn't expecting an impromptu BumbleKast after dark, but all right, gentlemen, let's get this show on the road.
We can, you know, let me just get really close. Yeah,
We're getting in here. We're getting in here. We're getting real close. This is it.
Reactions.
Welcome to the Barry Manilow ASMR edition of the BumbleKast.
And then I giggle and it ruins it all.
Anyway, it's been a while. Kai, tell the people at home who you are, what you do.
Well, my name is Kai. I go by KaiZenAmen on YouTube. You can also find me on Blue Sky. I just did that a few weeks ago. But yeah, I am here because the Year of Shadow has been fantastic, and there have been some things over the past few weeks that I've definitely wanted to ask questions about now that we are past the spoiler period. But just wanted to say that to start, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Flynn, for what you've done for Shadow, writing-wise, with Dark Beginnings and Shadow Generations. This is the exact story I've wanted for this character, and I think you, Sonic Team, the lore team, absolutely killed it. This was a dream come true, and the thing I knew we would get to see once you started writing for the games, and I love and appreciate you, boss man. You are just the best, and it was really cool to kind of see like the hopes that I had as a kid when I was reading Archie get to be executed for Shadow Generations. And with all the madness going on in the world right now and just how crazy things have been over the past few weeks, it's just nice to play a game that's been so comforting, and with Shadow Gens and his story having a good message on how to conquer your traumas, and that the light from those you love will bring the best within you. So thank you for reminding people of that and being able to do such justice to the ultimate life form.
Thank you very much. I worked really hard, and I was fortunate enough to have a great number of very talented and dedicated people elevating my work. So we all came together, we put together something fun, and I'm glad it's been so well received.
Alrighty, well, let's continue with some questions, talking about some of the people you got to work with. What was it like working with Gigex and Samaj and getting to see the final product for Dark Beginnings turn out the way that it did?
So I didn't work directly with them. I was told that's the studio they were going for, and so I wrote the script with that in mind. Like, when they do action sequences, they go hard. So it's like,
they
okay.
did, and they indeed did.
Well, and in the script, I'm like, all right, I know I can visualize how they're going to do this. It's going to be sick. And then they ran with it their own way. It's like, oh no, I was still being tame. Let the masters make their craft. And got to see the early animatic. That's the PlayStation pre-order bonus that some of you got to see. And it's like, oh my God. This is going to be amazing. And didn't get to see the final product until did I get to see it before everyone else? I can't remember if I got a preview or not, or if I had to watch it live. No, I think I did get a preview. Yes, I did. I got to see a preview because they get to the part with Shadow in the shuttle, and I'm crying and I'm going, oh, this is going to break the internet. This is going to be great. And then I watch people watch that episode and they're crying, and it's like, ha! I caused misery, catharsis. I don't know, emotional reaction.
Finally,
all three.
But yeah, they were great. We had a lot of back and forth on the script early on, just making everything fit in that time limit, and finding the right amount of lore to put in there, because part of the objective of this animation as a prelude was to reintroduce Shadow and his really complicated backstory.
Mhm.
How do you do something that is so intricate and dense when your focus of the project is high stakes action, So finding that happy medium was tricky. And it was also funny seeing the final product where it's like, okay, we went back and we revised this scene so many times to really cram it full of story element stuff, and the final product just whittled it down to what we had like on an initial pass, where it was much more streamlined. It's like, well, so it goes. Part of it is you learn as you actually storyboard it out and put it in there. So seeing the final product versus the script is interesting in comparison.
Yeah, I think Gigix and Samaj did a fantastic job. I think it's some of the best like choreography and fight sequencing that we've gotten for any like Sonic project. Like forget an animated thing. Like just some of the set pieces in that are just so good.
And the sound direction, like
yes.
In that initial nightmare sequence where he's coming up on Emerald and the sound cut and the music cuts out and it's just the skating. And then they just converge and that slam, and then nothing but that whipping sound of fists flying and gears moving. That's like, oh yes, give me more of this, please.
Yeah, sound effects department, the voice acting across the board was spectacular. Like Kirk and Stephanie, oh my god, they did such a good job with Shadow and Maria. And then Without You. did you know that a song like
no
that
idea,
was going
dude. Like I knew they said we're gonna get a dramatic piece of music in this. I'm like, okay, I'm sure Jun Sonoe can do something neat, and he was part of it, but was not prepared for that. And then Kirk's delivery of "stop it" and everything else is like, my soul,
my heart. Yeah, because that was a surreal moment for me because I got the pleasure of seeing Casey Williams perform for the San Francisco Sonic Symphony earlier this year, and loved that. She did like all the Crush 40, all the vocal greatest hits, and she was fantastic. But yeah, I was on the way home talking with my dad and going, yeah, I would love her to do a Sonic song, but I was thinking more of like the traditional Crush 40-esque rock anthem, not this anime ending, depressing, getting me in my feet. Like I broke down so bad because I was able to, for both Dark Beginnings and Shadow Generations, I was able to hold it in check for most of the narrative. Like there were moments that got me misty, but I'm like, I'm good. Nah, her vocals in Shadow reminiscing on what could have been, just it was not like Frontiers or it was a few tears in certain moments. It was just straight up like it was really bad.
Good. Such refreshing tears in my goblet.
What was your favorite aspect about being able to show more of the relationship between Shadow and Maria? I have a whole new appreciation for her after Dark Beginnings in this game, and I think you did a great job with the disability representation for her.
Thank you. That was a big aim. What we knew about Shadow and Maria was mostly implied. Like we got it. She was the one bright spot in his early life, and she was supposedly a wonderful person, and her loss was a tragedy, not just Shadow, but to the whole world. We get that, but we're mostly told that. Like most of the interactions we have ever seen between Shadow and Maria are, the gun moment. And before someone makes a pedantic comment, I said most. I know there's some other stuff. Back off. So I wanted to give her a little more time to show how good of a person she was, how uplifting, how supportive, how loving she was, and why she would be so important to not just Shadow, but Abe, who was, like 8 or something at the time, why she would have left such a lasting impression on someone who's now in probably definitely in their 50s. How does someone leave that much of a mark on your life, and so on? And with the chronic illness, witnessing it firsthand for so many years, and how non-visible ailments are often overlooked or derided. Oh, you're just faking it. It's obviously not that bad. Or you could try a little bit harder. I'm sure you can do all right. No, some days you can't. And it's demoralizing and it's incredibly difficult for the person who is afflicted and those around them in their lives. And I specifically did a little bit of cursory research on what neuroimmunodeficiency syndrome was because I didn't want it to be the anime waifu siku thing. Oh, Shadow, I'm so pure of heart, but also faint. No, if you have a chronic disease that is disabling like that, what is it? Because it's a real condition.
Yeah.
And what does that do to the human body? What is she has to endure? And it's not something we would have been able to pull to the forefront or dwell on, nor is it really the point of Shadow's game. But I did want to find a moment to highlight what it was she was contending with her entire life. And something that heinous, it makes sense that Gerald would bring her to a freaking space station if that was the only thing that could help her have a reasonably normal life. So, but at the same time, I didn't want the disease to make her a victim. It's not a punishment. It's not a moral failing. It's a disease. It's just part of life and it sucks. But she is such a strong and positive person that she could give in to despair with this kind of condition. But instead, she chose to be hopeful about it. And that was her way of fighting it. And just another reason why she was so inspirational to those around her.
Yeah, I love it. I love when you see through some of the NPC dialogue bits, but just anytime she interacts with Shadow, that she's the thing that always elevates him and picks him up. Like anytime he had any doubt or gave into his anger or in his emotion, she was always there to remind him about like, no, it's going to be okay. And like just to have her be that light and that presence, and you see how much he truly cares about her, like that recontextualizes the moments we do get, like you mentioned, even though they were few, like replaying SA2, replaying Shadow, going into Sonic Movie 3, like those moments will hit harder because of this. So yeah, you did a phenomenal job with that. Let's see. The Shattered Moon was one of my favorite pieces of unspoken world building that Dark Beginnings got to do. What moment you wrote in Dark Beginnings was your favorite to see when the animation brought it to life?
I mean, seeing the nightmare sequence rendered that way was really satisfying because that was pretty much as I envisioned. Especially that bit where he lands in the prison cell. And as he tries to reach Gerald just keeps getting further and further and further away.
That felt like something out of Silent Hill. It was so good.
I'm pretty sure I've had a nightmare like that. So it's like, that was rendered perfectly. And not to keep harping on this particular moment, but Shadow fighting back his own trauma with "Stop It" was something I was really, I wanted them to nail that in particular, because it's not just the tragedy of him, being sad. That's low-hanging fruit. That's easy. It's the fact that you see that he still occasionally harbors a thought about what might have been. And unlike any other character who sees the bright side in life or accepts things as they come or tries to rationalize in some way, he fights it down. That's how he confronts so much in his life, is confrontation. He doesn't address it. He doesn't work through it. He confronts it. He conquers it. He pushes it down and he moves on forward. And there's a tragedy to that, because that's not healthy, but that's who he is. And that's part of what gives him that edge that I think is so attractive to the fandom.
Yeah, you get a level of depth with his characterization that some characters get in specific stories, but for Shadow, it's like ingrained. Like that tragedy and that depth is more ingrained. Yeah, though. Yeah, nightmare sequence and that final like rocket shot, both just such good moments. Getting to canonize Abraham Tower as the official name for the gun commander must be a surreal full circle moment for you. Was it as simple as asking to finally give the commander that cool Archie callback?
Yes and no, because I wanted to finally give him a name. if we were going to utilize him in any meaningful way. If he never shows up again, then at least he got that period put at the end of that sentence. But if he does appear later, I feel like it makes it easier to utilize him, not just Commander. So we discussed, what could we name him? And I said, one option is I named him Abraham Tower back in the Archie days. This was when I was under contract. It is a Sega original character to begin with, and now I'm working closely with Sega itself. There should be no legal issues here. I'm telling you face to face in the same room, Izuka-san, we can do this. I will not come after you. I asked about, I'm drawing a blank. What's his name in the movies?
Walters. I think Walters, Commander Walters.
I asked, could do that for brand synergy, and apparently no, that is a movie exclusive thing.
Okay.
And then I jokingly said, you want to call him Oliver Garden? And that got a hearty laugh out of everyone in the room. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Darn.
those were the first initial ideas, see where they could go. I think they actually went to legal to see if what I was saying was right or not. And then, it was like, all right, we're approved. If, Izuka-san had not liked that, or if there had been some kind of legal wrinkle or somewhere, we would have come up with something else. I was not standing on the line saying, his name is Abe. It is what it is. But,
that is my child.
That is the Sonic hill I'll die on. If we would have come up with anything else if need be, but that happened to work out. That's a nice little Easter egg for the hardcore fans, and there you go.
Yeah. And also Roger Craig Smith, such a good job with the voice performance for episode 3. I really like
it's Roger.
The tone. Yeah. Omega 2 for the matter. So good. And this is my last question for Dark Beginnings. Is the implication true that Black Doom was able to reconstruct himself through the Death Leech larva on the Ark?
Yep.
Okay.
He was
very simple.
That was the Chekhov's gun, so to speak.
Okay. Cool. Just glad that I got that confirmed. Okay. All of the rest of these questions are about Shadow Generations itself. What was your initial reaction to when this game was pitched to you that it would be an expansion on Sonic Generations with Shadow, and you got to see all of the Doom powers and abilities that Shadow would have for this game?
So the initial project idea, this is a Shadow Generation story that runs concurrently with Sonic's story, was a really neat challenge because there is that little bit of overlap with the rival battle. So I knew going in there's that connective tissue. We have to figure out how that works. And you get a Chaos Emerald from Shadow, but it was baked in that Shadow has to have a Chaos Emerald to do Chaos Control, since you have that from the start of the game. And it's still a game mechanic after that point. And it didn't really make sense to end Shadow's story with the rival fight with Sonic. That seems like a weird place to cut it off, because there's still a bit of story for Sonic. So what would Shadow be doing that entire time? Just tooling around in white space? So we needed to have that kind of punctuated point between the two without it being a resolution. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I know that Generation story is already kind of light, but I do want to do my due diligence, make sure all the connections are there. Wait, what was the color of the emerald he had in the rival fight? What was the color the fake Emerald Tails made? Hallelujah, there's our connection.
Bam.
Oh, I was so happy that was already baked in, because that solved all the problems. That made it perfect. And then there was just a matter of, okay, if he's getting all these crazy Doom powers, why doesn't he use them in the rival fight? Pride. Sure, that makes sense. That works for Shadow. That is a perfectly fine cover for it, because, not to be lazy, but Generations is a lighter fare when it comes to narrative. It's very much a nostalgic rule of cool story. So yeah, you can do that. It's fine. It makes it. It makes enough sense with the character. Yeah. Oh.
You want to talk about nostalgic rule of cool? That entire cutscene just kind of nails that. Punctuates.
Okay, so with the majority of Shadow Generation story, I wanted it to be Shadow's story. This is him confronting his past in the most direct way possible, finding a bit of closure and solace, and setting him up on his path for what will be Shadow for the rest of the series. from that point on. And, with the NPCs that were preset, they said, here are the characters that he's going to talk to. I'm like, really? Big the cat? Yeah, all right.
Really? That was a Sonic team call.
That was a Sonic team call.
That is amazing.
Wow.
Oh my
It's
god.
like first she'll meet Omega. That makes sense. That's cool. Then Orbot and Cubot with their rocket ship. That's kind of funny. All right. Big the cat. I beg your pardon. And then Gerald Maria, and I'm like, yes, this is where the meat and potatoes are. And then Bruges, and I was like, okay, that's cool. That's how you can tie things together with the ending of the game. Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't want it to be full referential to past stuff. I wanted it to be the next chapter in the story. You have to reference past stuff for it to make sense. This is somebody's first Shadow game. They may not even watch the animations. You have to give context for it all. But this was not really so much about the past as Shadow moving forward from the past.
Yeah.
That said, Sonic Generations is one gigantic, unapologetic love letter to the franchise. Yeah. Everything down to like the little grapes hanging down next to Knuckles in the Sky Sanctuary prompt. It is 110%. Hey, remember this? Ergo, the Sonic and Shadow confrontation. I went 100% referential on that. Like hardcore, because that is fully indulgent. 100%. And seeing people experiencing it for the first time, getting the references and just marking out over it made me happy. Because is it a little cheesy? Oh yeah, that's fine, grade A Gouda.
Like but all of Sonic isn't though. Like
it's fun.
Respectfully, yeah.
It's indulgent and fun, and just let us have that little moment,
Yeah, no, I loved that moment because I've been a moderator for Fidel Games Cage over the past few months, and I made sure to play the game before he did so that I could like snipe people if anyone wanted to do spoilers. His reaction to that moment was perfection.
Like I knew the initial tete-a-tete would be picked up on, but I wondered how many people would get the Heroes reference, and they did. So
yeah, Day to Die For. That was so good. Yeah. And I mean, through that, you answered one of my questions of like having that eureka moment when you had like made that connection of, oh, same color of the Chaos Emerald in Sonic Generations to the fake Chaos Emerald from SA2. Like that has to be one of your like crown jewel achievements that you're the most proud of as a writer, right?
Well, I can't take a ton of credit because it was baked in, Sonic Generations already laid that foundation for me. And I wonder if they gave Shadow the yellow emerald in the original release as a nod to the fake emerald in SA2. Because again, Sonic Generations is a huge nerdy love letter to the franchise. It would make sense to me that was their thinking. I don't know for sure one way or the other. So things were teed up for me. I'm just very thankful that they were there. And the fact that Rouge shows up at that point in the story because of the way of the game design also helped to say, okay, she's a spy. She's a jewel thief. And one of the like two people in the world that's living, Shadow trusts. So, of course, he would confide in her to do the little switcheroo without Sonic noticing before he gets to the final boss. It all fell into place. I was just connecting the dots and coloring in the lines at that point.
Yeah. And then I didn't have a question about Rouge, but she's phenomenal in this game. Like, I love how endearing the friendship between her and Shadow is. Like, even the little act in Dark Beginnings in the intro of the game where she's just kind of pushing him to go to the party. Like that little act just means a lot to me. Cause like, it's like that little pushing out of his comfort zone. Like, it's just like, look, could you be social for once in your life, please?
And if you listening at home don't particularly like that rationale, then think of it this way. She's trolling him. She has the one bit of info that she has the one thing he needs. And the only thing she will trade it for is the one thing she knows is going to rile him. And that's hysterical to her.
Why not both?
The authorial intent is a little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay,
nice.
Good.
Nice.
She knows it's healthy for him to make some connections, but also, oh, he's going to hate this and it's going to be hilarious. Hey, Omega, I made him go to the birthday. Ha 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 ha.
All right. what did you enjoy most about writing Black Doom for Shadow Generations? I really liked the malice Doom brought throughout, his presence throughout levels, and the way that Sonic Team went so far as to have the Black Moon's eyes watch you throughout your traversal of white space.
I didn't know what the Black Moon was early on. I was told there was some kind of crest in the sky that changed as the game progressed. The fact that it is that weird, biblically accurate Black Doom is creepy and excellent. And I wish there's like a couple of word choices that I could have gotten a chance to go back and revise to be a little more in sync with that visual, but it works. And Black Doom is just fun because he's just full hand villain.
Yes.
He is unapologetically evil. He loves it. You just lean into it. He's someone built for you to hate. You want to kick his prune face in. It's wonderful. There's no nuance. But there is nuance because I didn't want him to be just one note mwahaha. There is an arrogance to it.
Yeah.
Everything is playing out by his design. Even in his last moments when we'll call him Doom Shadow. I don't know if there's an official title for that form, but when Doom Shadow kills him again, it's not curse you, Shadow, or I don't understand this. How could this be? It's just impotent rage because this isn't how it's supposed to be. He made everything the way it is. You're not supposed to define. You're not supposed to beat him. That doesn't work in his worldview. And it's too bad he's dead.
Yeah, and I love the execution of that because it's like he's so full of he's so full of his own ego that it sets up everything for Shadow to do in this game. Like him getting the Doom powers to begin with, him getting to have these moments with Maria and Gerald again to kind of strengthen his morals and his code. Like those are the things that end up undoing him. But he was just so full of himself that he doesn't even get to see that.
Yep. I mean, Shadow straight up tells him to his face, I'm going to take this power that you've given me and murder you with it. No, you're not. Nah. Oh, wait.
Yeah. And also, because I was wondering, because they said that it was a new voice actor, that it wasn't Sean Shelmo returning. And I was like, throughout the game, I'm going, Black Doom sounds fantastic. The second I saw Ben Diskin in the credits, I'm like, oh, they got Venom from Spectacular Spider-Man. Of course, Doom sounded fantastic in this.
And how much fun he had on social media after that.
Yeah, he's still doing it. It's so good. He made a Blue Sky account and is still doing it.
Marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. Shine on you, crazy star.
Yeah, I love Ben. The tragedy of Gerald was both beautiful and heartbreaking to explore. Shout out Evan Stanley for her work on the journal. What was it like to explore his descent into madness, get to understand Gerald on a deeper level, particularly exploring family dynamics we never knew before?
That was a long effort with a lot of scrutiny and a fair bit of revision and lots of fine-tuning, because one objective was to solidify all the crazy lore that Gerald is attached to. Like Gerald's had his finger in every freaking pie. And this would be the opportunity to lay it all out. But because some of it just doesn't sync up between games, or because there is just so much weirdness between it, how do you cover that? And having the diary be destroyed partially gives you that gray area of, well, what happened in between here and there? And you know, what are these moments that have forever been lost to time? There's a degree of tragedy to it, which, you know, fits Gerald. And you also have to reconcile, we see Gerald at his purest in Shadow the Hedgehog, when he reveals that he crafted Shadow to be the protector of humanity, and that he calls him son and sends him out against the darkness. Juxtaposed with the very bottom, when he's chained to a chair and ranting about how he just wants to destroy the world because he lost Maria, which is another reason, going back to why I made such a focus on showing why Maria was such a beacon for so many people. So now that we have a rough timeline of events from the game material, and we know how he was as a person at the beginning and how he was at the end, how do you connect all that? We have the pathway. What is the narrative there? And showing someone who is well-intentioned and an absolute genius but is also driven by the same ego that plagues this family.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just because it's benevolent doesn't mean it isn't there. And that opened up the opportunity for that extra bit of tragedy where he thinks he can solve all the problems because he is a genius.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But just because you're really good at archaeology and advanced mad scientists doesn't mean you're good at like social dynamics or politics or your budget. So he starts to panic because he's losing control and he doesn't really know why or how to fix it, but he knows he will fix it because he's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
This has been established. He's got a whole space station built to look like his face. Who gets that? Geniuses get that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And watching that rise and descent and everything falling apart for him, we know it happens. It's been well established. But now we could almost see it happen in real time, and gaining an extra level of understanding to the tragedy makes it all the more tragic.
Yeah, yeah. And Evan with the visuals where some of the pages aren't even, because I love that how some of them feel like traditional journal entries and then with like the picture snippets, but then some of it is just like chicken scratch madness, like archaic insanity, and you're just going, oh, that is that's some nightmare fuel. That's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not digital. She bought a journal and actually burned pages. Like wrote stuff down and burned it and damaged it to create that authentic effect. And then went back in and touched it digitally for the text and the images and stuff. But there is a physical first draft that she crafted to look like that. She did just stunning work on that. I'm so happy that one, you get to see it and experience it in the game, and two, some folks actually got like a physical representation of it.
Oh yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, I have it right to the right of me. It's so cool to kind of flip through it, because yeah, it's one thing to be able to kind of zoom in into the pages when you have it in Shadow's collection room, but yeah, to like have it physically, even though it's a bit tiny, just to kind of see the detail within the madness when you can see the pages really start to unravel. Well, yeah, like I couldn't love Evan anymore. Good job. Oh my god. And then yeah, I mean, finding out that Gerald had two sons, Maria having a sister, and then the whole Sage and Eggman dynamic from Frontiers. I love that we're getting that look of the Robotnik family tree and the lineage, and like finding out that it's so much more than just Eggman and his grandfather. Like there's a lot of characters and people that we like on some level knew existed, but like we're getting like bits and pieces of, and hopefully we get to see that bear fruit in the future, like many things. Let's see. Big the cat has some of my favorite NPC dialogue in the game. I love how he is the comfort character and therapist for seemingly everyone in the franchise now. But who? Was it you, someone at Sonic Team, or someone on the lore team that started the idea that Big and Froggy went to Soliana and met Elise? I just need a name so I can know who to thank for that laugh at that moment.
Oh, that's me.
Good.
Like, Big is a non sequitur. He is a running gag, so you better believe I had some fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
He's outside of Kingdom Valley. Oh yeah, sure. Went to Soliana, had some apples, met the princess. Because why not?
Big does what he wants.
Yeah, Big is delightful. The whole thought process of him going, hey, could you teach me chaos control? That would help with fishing. Never mind, that would actually make it too easy. You know what? I'm good. Like that, the full sequence of events where Shadow doesn't even have to say anything. That is so good.
And what sells that moment too is Big is sincere. There's no irony or sarcasm. It's the thought process. And I don't think Shadow has time to respond to any of that. He's just so aghast at the idea, and then Big's over it already. He's like, what just happened? One of my personal favorite moments is in White Space, where he talks about how there's no birds chirping, there's no bugs buzzing, there's no wind blowing. It is this void. It's real peaceful. He's the only person in the world that would have that takeaway, and he means it.
Yeah. There's an honest sincerity to Big, which is great. I mean, the fact that he runs into Gerald and Maria. Like, not in any moment that we see, but he's like, you know what? I'd like to fish with them someday. They seem nice. It's just like that endearing, like simplicity, but like it's honest. And it's cool to kind of see that happen, this full circle moment for a character that just was so hated and memed on for years, but then to have this flip now where he shows up in Frontiers and he shows up in this game and people are like, wait, you're here? Lovely. Like, let's chat.
There's also moments, because he is so sincere and direct, what goes unsaid that has the greatest volume. When he talks about Gerald and Maria and how he just wants to make them happy and looks forward to seeing them again. And that that's not going to happen. It can't happen. Or when he talks about how he really prefers not to go adventuring, but if his friends need help, he's going to go help them. You're the same way too, aren't you, Shadow? Just
yeah.
He doesn't have to be confrontational or even meaningfully poignant. It's just he drops that out there, and you're kind of left holding the bag, going, "Oh, damn."
Yeah,
pretty much.
That's just how big should be. Mephiles' return was one of the biggest highlights of Shadow Generations. The decision to have Mephiles remember every defeat, now trapped in non-existence, was a cool way to explore him. I love the idea that he's been thinking for eons about how he had the universe in his grasp with Solaris, but got punked by some sparkly glowing hedgehogs. What did you enjoy most about getting to write for Mephiles and bring him back in this way? I want to exist was a phenomenal line.
Actually, Mephiles' lines are mostly from Sonic Team.
Ooh,
they
cool.
did the principal. I had a few suggestions on lines because I didn't know how the boss fights were going to play out exactly, if you got to see them beforehand or whatever. And so they provided some lines, and I did some editing on that. With Metal Overlord, I went more towards the tying him into the battle. What does this battle with Shadow mean for the two of them? But Mephiles' lines, I really didn't tinker with them much at all, because what Sonic Team provided, I thought that was dead on. Why improve upon perfection? Like, they introduced all these little interesting nuanced nuggets here, and it's like, this might be just window dressing for the sake of drama, or there might be some greater thinking behind it that I'm not privy to just yet. Either way, those were really cool lines. Leave it as it is.
Yeah, and I liked that that idea behind all of the boss fights in this game, where they're all reflections of Shadow. Like, BioLizard is the prototype, Metal Overlord scanned his data, Mephiles steals his shadow and takes that as his form. And the way that he kind of treats them in those moments and the way that he reacts to them, like reacting to the BioLizard with much more empathy than he did before in SA2. And just the not taking any of Metal Overlord's BS in that fight, and just being, it's like, no, I'm gonna beat the ever living hell out of you. Just keep talking. And yeah, no, that the line, "There is no future for you ever," from Shadow at the end of this fight, like, that might be my favorite line that the character has ever gotten to have, period. That is just perfectly badass and cold-blooded for him in that moment, being like, I don't remember you, I don't know who you are, I'm still gonna beat that ass though. Like, I'm still all about business.
I think that might have been my line. My contribution to the boss fights were mostly Shadow's line. It's been so long. It may also have been that I want to say that the baked in line was, "There's no future for you," and I just added the "ever" at the end to punctuate it. But I don't remember exactly which was which. So point is, the team came together and we made something cool.
And yeah, so that was my question in regards to that line. What because that's my favorite line of dialogue the Shadow's ever had, just even though it's been a while. Like, do you have any inkling of what you ate that day? What was your morning routine? Like, what energy did you carry when you sat down to write that day and you're like, okay, nothing but fire is coming out of the pen today? Like, it's just one of those days.
And I think the moment carries the line more than the line itself, because you know what's going on between Mephiles and Shadow, even if Shadow doesn't. And the other point of it is, Shadow doesn't know and doesn't care. there's some kind of weird goo ghost monster thing that has a axe to grind with him, so he'll put him in his place. Doesn't matter what his motivation or history is. No, you step to him, you get stepped on. That's all there is to it. I don't want to go back into the darkness. Don't care. You're done, son.
Yeah. And then it's been fun seeing that. Yeah, it's been fun seeing that split within the community regarding that moment with Mephiles, because like there's been some people, because of the I want to exist and the despair that Damon has on the delivery of that line, which also picking Robbie Damon was such a good call for Mephiles, but it's been funny seeing the community split of going, oh, I kind of feel bad for Mephiles, and then like other people like line in the sand. It's like, no, don't forget what he did / was erased from time to Sonic. Like, we're not forgetting about that. No, he is an Eldritch Beast, and he deserves to stay there in the corner.
That was one of Sonic Team's lines, and it's like, this is great. This is fantastic. I'm not touching this one because it adds a layer to Mephiles that I find really engaging. I find it to be like a perfect motivator if we ever find reason to bring him back.
Yup.
And it does give you a degree of pathos for him, but he's a horrible goo ghost demon monster. No, put him back in the box.
It's true.
Nail it shut. Try to nail him in the box. He deserves everything he gets, but it's still engaging.
Yeah. The entire sequence, that boss fight, just all of it was so good. Maria naming Shadow because a shadow shows you where to find the light was beautiful. How did you come up with that moment? Because that's such a good connection that really endears their bond.
That was actually a concept by Toyota-san in one of the Sonic Channel stories from, God, I want to say 2016, but I could be very wrong.
Wow. Okay.
But and this was it was someone on the lore team who pointed that one out, saying, this is an element of Shadow's backstory that we haven't seen in any other media, really. It's very pertinent to what we're talking about. Can we fold it in? And I'm like, yes! Oh my God, how did I not know about this one? Thank you so much, Chris. And finding just the right way to word it so it didn't come across awkwardly without, just wholesale ripping off Toyota-san and putting it in there was a bit of a trick, but it's a really genius way of contextualizing things. Yeah. And it was another one of those moments where the dominoes fell once they were there, because I believe it's the Japanese material for SA2, Gerald is talking about how he initially called it Project Shadow because it was the pursuit of chasing immortality was folly to him. You're trying to grasp something intangible.
Which is so cool. Like that's such a cool way to frame it.
And then you have Maria's point of view on it, completely recontextualizing everything, and it just fits together. And it's that was one of the most satisfying things about this project, is taking all these different ideas that weren't necessarily written with each other in mind, as far as I know, and putting them all together in a way that fit. It makes the past 20 years, the past entirely too long, just feel relevant. Like we've come to the end of a journey, and that's what made Generations so much fun. Was acknowledging all that had come before and embracing it, and here we go again. And I think that's why it's resonating so much with Sonic fans, especially, is it feels like a satisfying culmination of all that we love about this franchise.
Yeah, because base gens did a good job with that for the first 20 years of the franchise, and then Shadow Gens does that for like the second half, kind of the middle ground, and other like 10 years, but also reaching back into the past, because it's like being able to take Kingdom Valley, for example, and all of the scale and scope that Sonic 06 was trying to go for at the time, but actually being able to give it that scale and spectacle with the level design and with the world design. Like, that was surreal. And it's the same thing with Forces and Sunset Heights, and of taking levels that were very short and quick, but making it feel like this grandiose epic set piece, and just kind of being able to honor the past and be like, this is the best version of the way that you loved and remembered these things. And then to do that for Shadow, where like you mentioned earlier, because it's like Sonic's going through his past, but it's like a joyful romp. He's like reminiscing through everything, where Shadow is just, it's like, I don't want to be reminded of all of this. I try to suppress and bury all of these feelings that I have right now. But then it's him finally getting the closure with Gerald and Maria, that's like, no, I can move forward from all of this. I can be better because of all of this. And that, I mean, to just kind of tag along on all of that, that moment when, before he goes to face Black Doom and he gives that affirmation to Maria that he will fight for her dream of everyone having the chance to be happy, and that glorious smile that follows, which, just for the record, whenever you say hashtag knowing smile in the future, that smile is what I'm going to think of. That is going to be the image throughout time that I think of whenever I hear hashtag knowing smile. Who the hell gave you, Sonic Team and the lore team, the jurisdiction to hurt me with wholesomeness like that? Like, that moment was so good. I loved it.
It came together very well.
Yeah, I mean, and I saw you were talking to Tyson about it, but it's like the two characters that he smiled for, Maria and Big, as the Lord intended.
I can't remember now if I had it in the script that he's just kind of bemused that Big is there. I don't remember giving him a smile. Maybe that's just what Big does. He transcends any direction.
Maybe.
The coders are looking at it going, no, he's supposed to be frowning. Why is he smiling? And Big just looks at you through the fourth wall.
Yes, it's the way that it's the way that the smirk just creeps up on his face as it fades to white, and you're just going, no, I'm supposed to be smiling like that. You are not supposed to be smiling like that. And then the last question in regards to Dark Beginnings, you mentioned how you cried when writing Dark Beginnings in that moment. Did you also cry for that finale of Shadow Generations?
Probably. That memory's a little fuzzy because of how much we tinkered with it at the end there, but it's a different kind of tragedy because with Dark Beginnings, you see it Shadow before he's had his catharsis and closure, and you see the damage. With Generations, it's that kind of reminder that he's a tragic character. He doesn't get the happy ending. You know, Sonic gets a big rally hoorah from all his friends and the power of the Chaos Emeralds, and he turns golden and beats up the monster. Look at him go, woo! That's not Shadow. Shadow isn't a happy character. He doesn't have a happy story. And, you know, the whole point of the Generation story is to return time as it was. So you can't save Gerald and Maria. That is a foregone conclusion. And I feel like so many people playing aren't thinking ahead. They're going, holy crap, they're actually here.
Yes.
I was biting my tongue so hard as the early promo stuff came out, and I didn't see people making the connection. Wait, this is white space. Anyone from any point in time can show up. We could have Maria and Gerald in white space. One or two people picked up on, that'd be kind of a neat. And I'm like, yeah, you have no idea.
Oh boy.
And then that one trailer dropped, and it's that moment where he sees her across the way.
Yeah.
And people lost their minds. I'm like, now you get it. Just wait for the other air shoe to drop, kiddos.
Oh boy.
But again, it's the tragedy of the moment because he can never be happy because of cosmic standards. And Maria giving him that last moment of encouragement, because I didn't want it to be too saccharine and I didn't want it to be too cheap. I wanted to actually mean something between the characters, but still you can't change the course of history. And then straight up parallels with Sonic X Season 2 finale.
Yes. A lot of people have caught on to that, and I'm glad that, because like Dark Beginnings, again, I was like, tears in check for the majority of the game, and I'm like, I'm good. When that tear flew back, and I instantly made that connection to Sonic X2. I'm like, no, that if he's crying, I'm crying. Like that, that's how this works. And then,
you know, because it's Rouge who catches it and realizes what it is. Doesn't say anything. There doesn't need to be said.
Yeah,
the mission goes on, and that's what they do, and that's Team Dark. That's their dynamic. That's who Shadow is. And you end on that bittersweet moment of he has had this precious moment that he should not have had. Never should have been able to see these people again. Got that moment, but it came at the cost. And I don't know. It's To me, it all made sense. It fell into place. This is how it should be, and thankfully, all the bosses agreed, and this is what we got.
Yeah. And then I mean, you do get the good resolution of, you know, he shows up at the end of Sonic Generations. He does end up going to the birthday party, and yeah, everything else just kind of flows on from that because it's then also it's just I love how much closure he gets with Maria specifically in this game, because just him talking about the reaffirming the fight of like what his purpose is and what his intention is, and then it's like fighting for people to be happy, and then just the way that he smiles and just the way that he has that moment and how this conclusion goes, it's like I hope that leaves room in the future for that fight to be for his own happiness too at some point. It doesn't just have to be for everybody else. And then you kind of see that with the way that he reacts to Team Dark and the interactions between them about it's like he has his new family now, even though they would never explicitly like say it like that.
And the tragedy of Shadow, and part of Gerald's NPC dialogue hints at that, is the option is there, the encouragement is there.
Mm-hmm.
Can Shadow allow himself to do that?
Yeah.
That he has to cross that bridge himself.
Mm-hmm. And it'll be very exciting to see that continue in the future. And then my last question, because I think that covers everything for Shadow Generations and Dark Beginnings, and I proofread these questions with a few of my friends, and I see if they have to ask anything. None of them had a specific question to ask. All of them just wanted to thank you, just for this how good the story was and like the work that y'all did. And it's cool to kind of see how much of a collaborative process these stories have been between the lore team and Sonic team. And yeah, they are. I don't know what we're getting in the future, because for me, it's like this is the exact thing that I personally have wanted. So it's like from here personally, I'm just like, okay, whatever y'all want to do, I'm cool with. Like I got the number one thing that I've always wanted, so I'm good with that. I got my emotion, I got my closure, I got my tears. And that thing too is because I did see some people being like, oh, I wish that without you, that moment in Dark Beginnings got to play for the credits. If that I already was a mess. If that played directly after the tear moment, no, I could not have allowed that to happen for me personally. I'm glad we just got a very badass medley via Jun Sonoe. But also, yeah, I can't wait for the album and to hear that track in its entirety, because Casey and June in general across this album did such a good job. Mm-hmm. And then for my final question, because I had this as the last question already, but specifically because the Shadow as Batman shirt came in, DCX Sonic, how does that feel? Like, are you still pinching yourself about that you're getting to work on that?
It's intimidating because, you know, Sonic fandom is passionate and incredibly creative. The DCU is storied and has a very passionate fan base of its own. And there are so many interpretations of those characters over the years. There are going to be so many expectations for this. Oof. And it's much. Whoops, sorry. Mike almost fell over. It's
Mike is like, I'm afraid as well.
It's a much bigger project than just me. I'm contributing a small element, and I am answering to a lot of people at once. So I'm excited for it. I've seen some of the early art, and it's freaking gorgeous. I cannot wait for them to announce the art team on this.
Ooh.
And you know, there's just one particular moment between Shadow and Batman that I'm like, of all the potential and ideas in here, this is what I see very clearly in my head.
Ooh.
Is it gonna get approved? It looks like it is.
Ooh, okay.
And
all right.
There's also a moment with Green Lantern Silver that the minute they said, here is the crossover, I'm like, I know what I'm doing. Please let this happen. I know. Oh my God, dude. I know exactly what please. And I think that one's good as well. So it's still in development.
Oh, cool.
Things can change. It's pretty high stakes, and it's just going to be fun. I want everyone to have fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, I have because I've been hunting them down. I've finally been able to get physical copies of the first all 12 issues of the Sonic Mega Man crossover, and I have that to the right of me. And it's like I'm reading through that, and I'm just going, if it's even in the ballpark of how good that ended up being, oh my god, I can't wait, because that's a combination of characters and universes that is just so damn cool.
Yeah.
And I say this with no insider knowledge. This is not a knowing smile. This is just me purely from a fan perspective. I hope this takes off like crazy, so we just get like a straight animated adaptation of it. Because, oh my god, dude, some of these sequences, seeing it on the page, nice. Seeing it animated, gimme.
Yeah.
Also the residuals. Residuals.
I mean, you deliver, you gonna earn them. But yeah,
I don't know if that's in the contract, but anyway.
Well, you'll get more BumbleKast guests.
I suppose
it'll work in different ways.
Hopefully, at least more BumbleKast listeners.
Alrighty, yeah, that is it for me. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Before we go, where do you want to send people after the show?
YouTube.com/KaiZenAmen. All of my other links to my other stuff are linked through there. But yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about Shadow Gens and Sonic Movie 3 in the weeks to come. So there's a lot to look forward to end the year of Shadow, and obviously in the next few years to come. So, and don't worry, I'll be definitely getting another guest spot within the year. Like, this is just a regular routine for me at this point.
And Kyle, you've been talking this entire time, but is there anything else you want to close off with?
No. Let's get out of here.
All right.
I've said too much as it is.
Thank you to KaiZenAmen for sponsoring this special guest episode of the BumbleKast. If you want one of your own, head over to patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, or become a YouTube member. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Look out for one another. And we will see you next time on the BumbleKast.
Take care, everybody.
Ladies.
This is what you wanted, isn't it, Maria? For me to be a licensed forklift operator? Container control!
You're too late, Sonic. I am now forklift certified.
It's that arc running duel again, but he's just in the forklift. The little tines are going up with the beat of the music. Dun, 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 dun.
I need that modded. I need that modded now.
You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.
I am consistently amazed how quickly the modding community is able to get on things. Because it's like, I remember when Frontiers came out and I was like, okay, it'll take them a few weeks to like get certain things for this game. No, it took days. And then like same thing for this game. I'm like, okay, it's two different engines. It might take them a little while. No, hours. It took them hours. And the first thing I saw was the Amy Shadow Generations mod. And I love how it translates to the cutscenes and like the anger moment with like the glowing eyes and like the dark aura. Seeing that on Amy, oh my god, that is so good.
If she's merciful, she'll use the hammer. If not, it will be your own skull.